Okay, we are here with Mr. John Colburn, state rep candidate for Indiana House District 70. Mr. Colburn, we are here meeting because your area got what can only be described as a smear campaign delivered to everyone's mailbox, not just Republicans, but it seems Libertarians, Democrats, everybody. So quite a large smear campaign at that. If you would hold it up just to kind of show the size of this thing.
It's a full 8.5 by 11 glossy, both sides.
Okay, very, very pricey. Okay, so you would like to address these points in this ad so that we can get some clarification because
Sure,
we're less than 2 weeks away from primary election, May 7th, and we want voters to be educated about their candidates. So let's just start with the first lovely point. It says bankruptcy. In March of 2023, John Colburn filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, declaring assets valued at roughly $445,000 and liabilities totaling over $730,000. How would you like to respond to that?
Well, really what that is all about is probably one of the worst epidemics facing our society. And that is people blaming others, using the legal system to blame others for their inabilities and incompetencies. So what this stems from is I sold one of my businesses, and there was a non-compete clause that the person who bought it, in my opinion, violated because he was unable or unwilling to provide the clients with the level of service and the competency of service that they had become accustomed to. And these families were starting to suffer. My family and I, we talked about it. We knew what the cost could potentially be, but we felt like we had to help these families and do the right thing. And so that's what we did. And so this person used the legal system to try to hurt me and my family. So I used the legal system to protect us. And that's the long and the short of it.
Okay. All right, so the next point on here is tax delinquent. John Colburn and his business have been issued at least 9 Indiana warrants for failure to pay taxes. How would you respond to that?
Well, let's go back to the beginning. And basically, a number of years ago, my family experienced a windfall, and we had a large tax liability that took us a period of time to get paid off. And so that happened. A lot of the tax delinquencies over the last number of years have been simply because the Department of Revenue requires that you prove to them that you don't owe them taxes. And in layman's terms, you have to file a 0 tax return for withholdings. And honestly, proving to the Department of Revenue that I don't owe them anything, yeah, that's not been real high on my priority list. So that will fall through the cracks. They'll send me a letter and fill out my 0 returns and return them. And that's, it's a nothing burger from the get-go because those were 0 returns with no tax owed. And we currently have no tax liability to the state of Indiana.
So you are currently not tax delinquent. And you have several businesses. I mean, you've had several businesses throughout your career.
Yes, we've started and sold a number of businesses. And, I've been very frank from the beginning that, not all of them were successful. But, we just keep getting up to bat and doing the best we can. And, here we are.
Okay. All right, the last point on here is unprofessional, is what it says. Despite operating accounting businesses for over a decade, Colburn is not and has never been a licensed accountant in the state of Indiana. How would you respond?
What I do doesn't require a license, okay? It's a nothing burger. There's nothing there. If you don't do something that requires a license, why would you have one? That's like saying you take your grandmother to the doctor, you need to get a CDL. If what I do does not require a license, why would I get one?
So do you, you're not operating as a licensed accountant, obviously.
I am not a CPA. I do not do public accounting. Everything I do is for private individuals and their small businesses.
Okay, so that would be what they're trying to insinuate here. And this ad has been paid for by, what is the exact verbiage on the other side?
Paid for by the committee to elect Karen Engleman.
Okay, so this is Karen Engleman's campaign.
She approved this message, and I can only assume that she had a hand in creating it.
Okay, what do you think is the motivation for her sending out this full page-sized smear campaign?
I think people only send these kind of mailers out for two reasons. One is they work. This will move the needle, no question. But more importantly, and I think what we should think about, is the desperation involved. This demonstrates a level of desperation that Karen has never had to experience before. She has never had a primary opponent, and she's been in government for nearly 30 years. And so here we are. She doesn't want to talk about the issues. She doesn't want to talk about her voting record, which includes her voting to expand the un-American red flag laws here in the state of Indiana. It includes her voting 2 out of 3 times against the Constitution and your personal liberties. And let's not forget the despotic governor that we have and his actions during COVID, trying to tell us what businesses we could frequent, what churches we could go to, and what we couldn't do, and what we had to wear on our face. She stood by idly and allowed him to do that. The lieutenant governor stood by idly and allowed him to do that. And in fact, in an AP article in December of 2022, when she announced her candidacy, she said she was going to stand by the governor's COVID actions. So thank goodness we had Curtis Hill to stand in the breach and protect us from that. But, you know, if Karen wants to talk about the issues, those are the issues that we need to be talking about, not working through life and suffering through life's knocks and getting knocked down once or twice and getting back up and still staying in the fight. Let's talk about her inability and unwillingness to stand up for our liberties and our freedoms.
Did Karen ever reach out to you about any of the points that she has put on this ad before sending it out to everybody? Has she ever validated any of the points on there with you personally?
No.
Okay.
Now, one thing I would like to say is that there have been a couple of ads or mailers that have went out against Karen over the last couple of weeks, and I do not condone those. In fact, I condemn those. They're mean, they're nasty, and they're ugly. And I don't support those. But what I want to talk about are the issues. Again, let's talk about Karen's voting record, where she voted for carbon dioxide sequestration, which is just a wink and a nod to the solar farms and that whole, we'll call it sub-economy that's being supported by the state and the federal governments. And it's eating up our farmland. So Karen supports that. So those are the issues I want to talk about, not about, you know, things that have happened to me or my family in the past, or things that have or haven't happened to Karen in the past. Let's talk about the voting record, Karen.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you would like to include related to this, or anything else before voters cast their vote on May 7th?
No, because I'm not going to talk about how Karen's been protected by Jamey Noel over the past 3 or 4 terms, how he kept me from being able to run against her during the last time to protect her. I wouldn't dare bring any of that up. So I guess I'm good.
Okay, we'll reach out to Karen and see if we can get a hold of her for the first time. We've been unsuccessful so far by phone and email to get her to participate in any kind of interview with us, but we'll make another attempt to see if we can get her side of this campaign ad as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate it.